Brandon Hale pushed open the door of the apartment, the faint hum of Manhattan traffic seeping in behind him. It was nearly 2 a.m., the kind of hour only cheaters and liars walk in, pretending everything is normal. He straightened his suit jacket, brushing off the scent of Sienna's perfume light, expensive, impossible to hide. But he didn't worry. Lillian never questioned anything. She was too gentle, too tired, too trusting. The apartment was dark, not unusual. Still, something felt different. Too still. Too quiet. Even the refrigerator's usual whir seemed muted, like the whole place was holding its breath. "Lily?" he called softly. No answer. He walked into the kitchen, expecting leftover dinner or a note. Instead, he saw a small sheet of paper lying in the center of the counter. White paper, messy colors, the unmistakable scribbles of a 5-year-old. His son's handwriting. Bright crayon strokes, crooked letters, a wobbly heart. The message read, "Mommy has a new hero." At first, Brandon let out a short, dismissive laugh. Kids drew nonsense all the time. Maybe Noah meant a cartoon character or a firefighter they saw at school. But the longer he stared at the words, the more something sharp twisted in his chest. The drawing showed 3 figures. One small, that was Noah. One with long brown hair, Lillian. And the last one tall, broader, holding both their hands. Not him. He froze. A prickling heat crept up his neck as he whispered, "What the hell is this?" He looked around the silent apartment again. Lily's shoes weren't by the door. Her coat was missing. Noah's backpack too. For the first time in years, Brandon felt a flicker of fear, ugly, sour, unfamiliar. He snatched the paper off the counter, gripping it too tightly, crumpling the edges. His pulse spiked. He needed answers, needed control back. Because there was no way, no possible way Lillian had found someone new. Not her. Not the woman he thought would stay no matter what. He stormed down the hallway, ready to tear the apartment apart if he had to. And then he saw something that made his stomach drop. The bedroom closet was empty. Completely empty. Lillian Harper had always lived her life in the quiet spaces between school drop-offs, lesson plans, grocery lists, and the soft little moments only a mother notices. She moved gently, spoke softly, and loved deeply. People often mistook that softness for weakness. Brandon certainly did. For years, he counted on it. She wasn't born into privilege or connections. Raised in a small Midwest town by a single mother who worked double shifts at a diner, Lily learned early how to endure storms without making noise. Her dream had once been to become an interior designer, sketching cozy rooms under the dim light of her childhood lamp. But dreams were expensive, and life kept handing her bills. She met Brandon at a community college mixer when she was 23. He had confidence, ambition, a polished smile that made you feel chosen just by standing near him. He said she made him feel calm. He said she was the kind of woman men built families with. And in her soft, hopeful heart, she believed him. Marriage came quickly, and with it, Brandon's need for control. "Quit school," he told her. "I earn enough for both of us." She resisted at first, but he convinced her it was temporary. Temporary became permanent. Designing rooms became decorating preschool art walls. And every year, Lily's life shrank just a little more to fit inside Brandon's expectations. Still, she stayed. For Noah. For the tiny family she believed she could preserve if she just tried harder. But the past months had hollowed her. Brandon stopped coming home for dinner. He stopped calling. He stopped looking at her the way a husband should look at his wife. And when he did look at her, it was with annoyance, like she was a burden he didn't remember agreeing to carry. She knew something was wrong. Every late-night work event, every vague excuse, every scent of unfamiliar perfume on his suits chipped away at her hope. But she didn't confront him. She didn't cry or scream. She simply began to disappear inside herself. Until one evening, while picking Noah up from school, he tugged at her sleeve and whispered, "Mommy, Dr. Marcus helped me today. He said we deserve someone who listens." It startled her. The kindness in her son's voice, the way he said, "we." A week later, she passed by the development center where Marcus worked and saw him kneeling beside Noah, tying his shoes, talking gently. Her son laughed, really laughed for the first time in months. Something cracked open in her chest. Something she didn't have a name for yet. That night, while Brandon was out working late, Lillian packed 2 suitcases, grabbed Noah's backpack, her worn-down courage, and left the apartment forever. What she didn't know was that Brandon would find the crayon letter before he found the empty closet. New York had a cruel way of reminding people exactly how small they were. Lillian felt it the moment she stepped out of the cab with Noah asleep on her shoulder and her 2 suitcases dragging behind her. The night wind cut through her thin sweater as if the city itself were questioning her sanity. She didn't have a plan, just a sliver of courage and the instinct to protect her son. The cheap motel on West 49th was nothing like the Manhattan apartment she'd left behind. The neon sign flickered like it was gasping for air, and the lobby smelled faintly of old carpet and burnt coffee. But the clerk didn't ask questions, didn't judge the dark circles under her eyes, didn't comment on the little boy curled up against her. He just handed her a key. Room 214. Second floor, no elevator. Inside, the room was small, barely large enough for a single bed, a side table, and a window overlooking an alley filled with trash bags. The heater rattled. The wallpaper peeled. Yet Lily exhaled for the first time in months. It wasn't home, but it was safe. Safe from Brandon's cold voice. Safe from his suspicion. Safe from the life that had slowly suffocated her. She tucked Noah under the thin motel blanket, watching his tiny chest rise and fall. His innocence broke her. He deserved better than a father who couldn't come home on time. Better than a mother who had stayed too long. In the empty silence, her mind drifted to the past year. Brandon's long nights at Skyline Tech, the Mercedes keys tossed on the counter without a word. The bruising loneliness of eating dinner alone while he sent hollow texts like running late. She had pretended not to notice the red lipstick stain on his collar one night. Pretended hard enough to convince herself it meant nothing. But the real breaking point wasn't perfume, excuses, or lies. It was the day Brandon forgot to pick Noah up from school, left him waiting in the rain for almost an hour. Dr. Marcus had found him shivering, curled under the playground slide, whispering, "Daddy forgot again." Lily had cried in her car that night, silent tears she wiped away before stepping inside their apartment. Now, sitting in the dim motel room, she whispered a promise to herself. They would not go back. She didn't know what tomorrow held, how she'd pay rent, where she'd work, whether Brandon would hunt them down. But she knew one thing. She would fight for Noah's peace, even if it meant rebuilding her life from nothing. Then her phone vibrated on the nightstand. A single text from an unknown number. "Lillian Harper, I know where you are. We need to talk." It was Brandon. And he was closer than she thought. Brandon Hale wasn't the kind of man who lost things. Not deals, not opportunities, not people. He built his entire identity on control, on always being 2 steps ahead. At Skyline Tech, he was the golden boy. Charming, assertive, sharply dressed in tailored suits and cufflinks, he didn't bother to polish himself. On the outside, he was the picture of a successful American husband. Inside, he was a storm waiting for the right moment to break something. And lately, that something had been Lillian. He never laid a hand on her. He didn't need to. Brandon used silence like a weapon and disappointment like a leash. Every sigh, every raised brow, every critique about dinner or Noah's messy backpack was designed to shrink her just a little bit more. He was a master at making her feel like she was the one failing him. Then came Sienna Locke. Sienna was everything. Lily wasn't, at least in Brandon's mind. Confident, sharp-tongued, expensive. She floated through corporate events in stilettos and designer dresses, laughing at his jokes like he was the center of gravity. She knew exactly how to make him feel powerful, admired, desired. She also knew how to make him dependent. It started with accidental late-night strategy calls, then drinks, then hotel rooms Brandon swore were just for decompressing. Soon, Sienna had access to secrets, real ones, confidential sales projections, client leads, the kind of information that could ruin him if placed in the wrong hands. And she had the screenshots to prove it. Brandon didn't know that part. Not yet, but Sienna did. And she planned carefully, always with a smile, always with a fingertip tracing the rim of her wine glass. Tonight, while Brandon stormed through the empty apartment, staring at the crayon letter, Sienna lounged across her high-rise condo sofa, smirking at her phone. She had seen Lillian's sudden disappearance. The internet didn't forget easily, especially when a VP's wife unfollowed him on everything within the same hour. Sienna wasn't worried. In fact, she welcomed the chaos. Let her run, she whispered to herself. Because the truth was simple. Sienna never intended to be just the mistress. She wanted the ring, the money, the power. And she wouldn't let Lillian ruin the life she planned for herself, a life built on Brandon's ambition and her manipulation. Back at the motel, Lily's phone buzzed again. Brandon's message appeared, sharper this time. "Pick up, I'm coming." She shut the phone off with shaking hands, pulling Noah closer. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that Brandon wasn't the only one heading her way. Sienna had already left her condo, heels clicking, eyes blazing with a plan of her own. The next morning, Lillian tried to convince herself she could disappear quietly, blend into the city the way other women did when life broke them. She planned to take Noah to the public library, maybe find a job posting board, maybe call one of her old preschool colleagues, anything to stay unseen. But New York had other plans. As she walked Noah toward the library, a group of parents outside a nearby cafe lowered their voices the moment they spotted her. Some glanced at their phones, whispering behind their lattes and polished sunglasses. She didn't understand. She kept walking. Then she saw it. On the cafe's outdoor screen, one of those rotating news tickers flashed a headline. Skyline Tech executive's wife leaves home after emotional breakdown. A blurry photo of her taken outside the motel appeared below it. Her breath collapsed. The world tilted. Someone had leaked her location. Someone had fed the story. And only two people knew. Brandon and Sienna. Her phone now turned back on, buzzed nonstop. Missed calls from unknown numbers. Messages from coworkers. Even her mother's old friend from Iowa texted, "Honey, are you okay? Saw something about you on Facebook." Lily felt exposed, stripped, humiliated in front of a city that didn't even know her name yesterday. But the worst blow came 10 minutes later when her preschool supervisor called. "Lillian, I'm sorry. Parents saw the headline. Some of them are worried about eye stability. We have to suspend your hours until things clear up." Suspended, no income, no safety net. Her knees weakened. Noah clutched her hand tighter, sensing her fear. "Mommy, are we in trouble?" She forced a smile, but her voice cracked. "No, sweetheart. We're just figuring things out." As she pulled him into her arms, a sleek black Mercedes rolled up to the curb. The tinted window slid down. Brandon. His jaw was tight, eyes wild, not with worry, but with fury. "You made a scene," he hissed. "You embarrassed me. Get in the car. Now." People turned to look. Lillian stepped back, shielding Noah behind her. "I'm not going anywhere with you." Brandon lowered his voice, but the venom was unmistakable. "You don't get to decide that. You left with my son. You caused damage to my career. I warned you, Lily. I warned you what would happen if you tried to run." Noah whimpered. Lily's heart pounded. She wasn't strong enough to fight him alone, not like this, not with everyone watching. Then, from behind her, a calm, steady voice spoke. "Is there a problem here?" She turned and froze. Dr. Marcus Ellington was standing there looking right at her, and at Brandon. For a moment, the world stood still. Brandon's glare, Marcus's calm posture, the quiet city noise fading behind the pounding in Lillian's ears. She wished she could be strong, wished she could stare Brandon down and hold her ground like the heroines she used to admire in old movies. But reality wasn't a movie. Reality was exhaustion, fear, humiliation, and a child clinging to her hand with trembling fingers. Brandon stepped out of the Mercedes, slamming the door as if to announce ownership over the sidewalk. "This is a family matter," he growled at Marcus. Marcus didn't flinch. "It doesn't look like she feels safe." Lillian's breath hitched. Safe. When was the last time she'd felt that? Not in the apartment she'd scrubbed every weekend to keep Brandon happy. Not in the car rides filled with silence. Not in the nights she lay awake wondering why she wasn't enough. Brandon scoffed. "She's overreacting. She ran off because she's unstable. You've seen the news. She needs help, not an audience." The word unstable hit harder than she expected. It was the same word he'd tossed around during arguments, soft enough to sound like concern, but sharp enough to bruise. Tears burned behind her eyes. She didn't want to cry here in public, in front of her son, in front of a man who once promised to protect her. Marcus knelt beside Noah. "Are you okay, buddy?" Noah nodded shyly, but his voice shook. "I don't want Mommy to cry." That was it. The dam inside Lillian broke. She covered her mouth, shoulders trembling, tears falling faster than she could stop them. Months of silent suffering, of pretending everything was fine, crashed down on her. She cried for the woman she used to be, for the dreams she'd abandoned, for the nights she waited for Brandon to come home, for the lies she swallowed just to keep peace. "Lillian," Brandon said sharply, stepping closer as if ready to grab her arm. "Enough of this. You're coming home. We'll fix your little meltdown privately." She shook her head, but the words tangled in her throat. She could barely breathe. Marcus stood and quietly placed himself between her and Brandon. "You should leave." Brandon scoffed. "Or what? You gonna play hero?" Marcus didn't answer. He didn't have to. His presence alone felt like a shield. This only enraged Brandon further. His face reddened, jaw tight. "Lily, get in the car. Last warning." She backed up a step, voice finally breaking through the tears. "No, please, just go." The street fell silent again. And then someone in the cafe gasped loudly. A notification buzzed on a dozen phones at once. Another headline flashed across the cafe screen, bolder, sharper, devastating. Skyline Tech VP accused of misusing company funds, internal investigation underway. Marcus turned. Brandon paled, and Lily realized she wasn't the only one whose life had just fallen apart. Brandon's face drained of color as the headline blazed across the cafe screen. Misusing company funds. Internal investigation. His entire identity, his status, his career, his power hung by a thread he hadn't even seen fraying. People nearby whispered. Phones lifted subtly as they searched for more information. Lillian watched the panic crack through Brandon's perfectly polished exterior for the first time. "Who the hell leaked this?" he muttered, voice low and trembling with anger he was trying desperately to contain. "This wasn't supposed to go public." Marcus crossed his arms. "Sounds like you have bigger issues than harassing Lillian." Brandon shot him a murderous glare. "Stay out of this." But Marcus didn't move. And for the first time, Brandon couldn't steamroll someone into backing down. Lily wiped her cheeks, still unsteady. "Brandon, what did you do?" His jaw clenched. "Nothing illegal. It's exaggerated. A temporary misunderstanding." Marcus raised a brow. "Companies don't launch investigations over misunderstandings." Brandon ignored him. His attention snapped back to Lillian with a desperation she hadn't seen before. "Lily, please. You need to come home. If you're with me, this will blow over. But if you keep running, people will assume things. Bad things." So that was it. He didn't want her back. He wanted stability. Optics. A wife to stand beside him like a well-placed prop while his world fell apart. She stepped back. "I'm not saving you." Before Brandon could answer, another notification dinged on every phone nearby. A second headline flashed. Source confirms. PR consultant Sienna Locke involved in data leak. Gasps erupted. Marcus's eyes widened slightly. "That's your mistress, isn't it?" Brandon's mouth fell open. No, she wouldn't. But Lillian knew better. Sienna had always smiled too sharply, always watched Brandon with an ambition that bordered on hunger. She wasn't the type to let a sinking ship take her with it. At that exact moment, a sleek silver BMW screeched to a stop across the street. The passenger door flew open, and Sienna stepped out, hair perfect, heels slicing the pavement like she owned it. But she wasn't calm. She looked furious. "Brandon," she shouted, stalking toward them. "We need to talk now." He paled even further. "Sienna." "Don't Sienna me," she snapped. "You lied to me. You said they'd never trace anything back to me. You said you handled everything." Lily stared in shock. So Sienna truly was involved. Marcus stepped closer to Lily, instinctively protective. Sienna's voice rose, sharp enough for the entire block to hear. "Do you have any idea what you've done to me, to my career? Everything is blowing up, and it's all your fault." A crowd formed. Brandon reached for her arm, voice low. "Keep your voice down." She yanked away. "I'm done hiding your messes. If I go down, you're coming with me." And then Sienna turned, eyes locking onto Lillian with a mix of jealousy and contempt. "You think you're winning because you ran away? Sweetheart, you have no idea what's coming." Because Sienna had one more secret even Brandon didn't know she was about to reveal. For the next 48 hours, everything spun out of control. The investigation into Brandon escalated. News updates hit every hour, each more damaging than the last. Photos of Sienna storming out of Skyline Tech circulated online. Blogs speculated about internal corruption, leaked data, misuse of client accounts, and in every story, Brandon Hale's name shone like a neon warning sign. For Lillian, it should have been satisfying, a small, poetic justice. But instead, she felt numb. She spent 2 nights in the cramped motel, sitting on the edge of the squeaky bed, wondering how she had let her life collapse so quietly. She stared at her reflection in the small bathroom mirror, pale skin, tired eyes, limp hair tied in a messy knot. She looked like a woman who had been surviving, not living. On the 3rd morning, she reached a breaking point, not of despair, but of clarity. Enough. She showered, blow-dried her hair, put on the one blouse she hadn't stuffed into a suitcase in a hurry. She applied a touch of makeup, nothing dramatic, just a quiet reclaiming of herself. Then she opened her old laptop and searched for interior design portfolios, small studios, freelance opportunities. For the first time in years, she remembered the feeling of wanting something for herself. At noon, she took Noah to the Children's Development Center for a free art session Marcus had invited them to attend. The moment she walked inside, sunlight pouring through tall windows, shelves filled with books and sensory toys, walls painted in calming ocean tones, she felt something thaw inside her. This was a place built with intention. Warm, safe, kind. Everything her marriage had not been. Marcus noticed her immediately. His expression softened, not with pity, but with genuine respect, like he was seeing her in a new light. "You look better today," he said gently. She smiled, a real one this time. "I'm trying." "Trying," he said, "is how people rebuild." They sat together while Noah painted on the tiny easel. Lily talked about her past dream of becoming an interior designer. She expected Marcus to nod politely. Instead, he leaned forward. "Lillian, I've seen your sketches in Noah's bag. You're talented." Her heart skipped. "They're just doodles." "No," he said, firm but warm. "They're potential." For the first time since leaving Brandon, hope didn't feel dangerous. But that fragile moment shattered when Marcus's assistant hurried over with a panicked look. "Dr. Ellington, you need to see this. It's about Miss Harper." Lillian's stomach twisted. "What happened?" The assistant held up her phone, screen glowing with a breaking headline. "Husband accuses missing wife of kidnapping their child. Police notified." Lily's blood ran cold. Marcus exhaled sharply. "He didn't." "Oh, yes, Brandon Hale absolutely did. And he wasn't done. Because he had just filed for emergency custody of Noah." The words emergency custody echoed in Lillian's mind like a violent echo she couldn't escape. Her hands trembled as she held the phone, staring at Brandon's accusation plastered across the news. Missing wife. Kidnapping. Dangerous instability. Every sentence was a knife, each twist meant to erase her voice and paint her as the villain. Marcus took the phone from her gently. "This is retaliation. He's cornered men like him lash out when they're losing control. But he can't take Noah from me," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I've never hurt my child. Never." Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder, steady, grounding. "I know, and I promise you, this isn't the end, but we need to move." Within an hour, they were sitting inside Marcus's private office, a warm, wood-paneled space overlooking the Hudson. Noah played quietly with blocks in the corner, unaware his entire future was being threatened. Marcus dialed a number. A woman's voice answered. Sharp, confident. "A lawyer." "Lauren Price," he said. "I need your help with a custody emergency." Lauren arrived 30 minutes later, heels clicking, eyes fierce. She reviewed the documents Brandon filed, shaking her head with growing disbelief. "This isn't a father trying to save his child," she said. "This is a man trying to punish his wife." "Because covered it." Lillian swallowed hard. "Can he win?" "He has money," Lauren said plainly. "Connections. But you have something more powerful." Lily blinked. "What?" "The truth. And evidence he doesn't know you have." Before Lily could ask what she meant, Lauren retrieved a tablet from her bag. "I pulled Brandon's public records. The internal investigation at Skyline Tech, it's worse than the news is reporting. They found discrepancies going back years. Improper bonuses. Misuse of accounts." She paused. "And suspicious transfers to a private PR contractor." Lily froze. "Sienna." Lauren nodded. "If his credibility falls, so does his case." It was the first flicker of hope Lily felt all day. Then the office door burst open. Everyone turned. Sienna Locke stormed inside, mascara smudged, hair wild, breathing hard as if she'd run blocks to get there. Noah flinched and hid behind Lillian. "I need to talk to you." Sienna spat, not at Marcus, not at Lauren, but at Lillian. "What could you possibly want?" Lily whispered. Sienna pointed a trembling finger at her. "You think Brandon is your only problem? You think he's the one trying to destroy you?" Lily frowned, confused. Sienna laughed bitterly. "Sweetheart, he isn't the one who leaked your motel location." Lillian felt her stomach plunge. "No," Sienna said, voice cracking. "That was me. And I'm here because something far worse is coming." Marcus stepped forward, firm. "What are you talking about?" Sienna's expression twisted with fear. "Brandon knows where you are. And he's on his way with police." The moment Sienna's words hit the room, everything inside Lillian went ice cold. Her heartbeat pounded against her ribs as if trying to escape. Police. Brandon bringing police. The one fear she never thought she'd face, being painted as a criminal in front of her own child, was suddenly terrifyingly real. Marcus stood taller, voice calm but edged with urgency. "Everyone stay here. Lillian, breathe. We'll handle this." But Lily's breath was gone, stolen by panic. Her knees wobbled. The world blurred. I can't let them take Noah. I can't." Lauren stepped forward. "They can't just take him. Brandon would have to prove imminent danger, and he can't. You left peacefully. No violence, no threats." Sienna let out a bitter scoff. "You underestimate the man. He'll twist anything. He told the cops you're emotionally unstable because of some postpartum trauma. Which doesn't even make sense because your kid is 5, but they don't check facts when a rich man is shouting." Lily felt sick. Brandon had rehearsed this, prepared it. He truly believed she belonged under his control, no matter what it cost her. Marcus grabbed his keys. "We need to move. Now. Because Naforli raid. It's Dodd rule." But before he could reach the door, Noah suddenly began to cry, quiet, confused, sobs that cut deeper than any legal threat. "Mommy, I don't want to go with Daddy. He yells all the time." Lillian knelt, pulling him close, her chest aching. "I won't let anyone take you, I promise." Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a message from an unknown number. "Police Itia, 7 minutes." He's screaming at them to hurry. Sienna looked away, ashamed. "That came from me. I set alerts on his location when we were together. Long story, don't ask." Lauren closed her briefcase sharply. "We'll file a counter-petition, but right now, we need witnesses. Somewhere public, somewhere safe." Marcus snapped his fingers. "My development center has security cameras. Neutral ground. If Brandon tries anything, it's all recorded." Lillian hesitated. "What if they believe him anyway?" Lauren stared her straight in the eyes. "Lillian Harper, listen to me carefully. You are not the woman Brandon convinced you that you are. You are stable, you are protective, you are sober, you are present. And you have people who believe you." Her expression hardened. "But Brandon? He's unraveling on every news channel in the city." Sienna nodded grimly. "And he's about to unravel even harder." They rushed out of the office, Marcus carrying Noah, Lillian close behind, Lauren fielding calls, Sienna glancing nervously over her shoulder. As they stepped outside, sirens wailed 2 blocks away, too fast, too close. Marcus tightened his grip on Noah. "Keep walking. Don't look back." But Lillian did, and she froze. Because the black and white police cruiser speeding toward them wasn't the real danger. Brandon was driving right behind it, windows down, fury blazing. And he wasn't alone. The police cruiser screeched to a halt in front of the group, tires biting into the pavement. Officers stepped out quickly, one hand near a holster, the other raised to signal everyone to stay back. But it wasn't the police who made Lillian's stomach drop. It was the black SUV that pulled up right behind them, horn blaring, door flying open before the vehicle had even fully stopped. Brandon jumped out, hair wild, suit wrinkled, eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep or pure rage. Lillian couldn't tell. But he wasn't alone. His older brother, Ethan Hale, an attorney with a reputation for bending the law until it nearly snapped, climbed out from the passenger side. Ethan pointed straight at Lillian. "Officers, that's her. She's been keeping the child from his father. Brandon has emergency custody documentation filed this morning." The officers nodded and started walking toward her. not aggressively, but with that rigid caution that made innocent people feel guilty. Lillian's chest clenched. Her fingers tightened around Noah's hand. Marcus stepped forward, voice calm but firm. She hasn't kidnapped anyone. She left a toxic situation. She has every right to remove her child from an unstable home. Ethan scoffed. Spare me the therapy rhetoric. The court will decide. Officers, do your job. Lauren Price moved between Lillian and the police, and I am her counsel. You will not speak to her without me present, nor will you remove the child without a judge's order. 8. Bostabules. One of the officers spoke gently. Ma'am, we're not here to arrest you. We just need to confirm your child is safe. But before Lillian could answer, Brandon lunged forward. Noah, he shouted, grabbing the boy's arm. Noah yelped, shrinking back in terror. Daddy, stop. You're hurting me. Everything froze for a split second. Then Marcus moved fast. He pulled Noah away, shielding him with his entire body. Don't touch him. Brandon's face twisted. Get out of my way. If you wanted to scramsnide. Sienna stepped forward unexpectedly. Brandon, stop. You're making it worse. He rounded on her like a wild animal. You ruined everything. Her jaw tightened. You ruined yourself. The officers intervened, holding Brandon back. Sir, step away. Now. Ethan hissed under his breath. You're tanking your own case. But Brandon wasn't listening. His eyes locked onto the crumpled drawing sticking out of Lily's purse, the crayon letter. That thing, he spat. That stupid drawing. That's what this is about? Some pathetic scribble? Lillian gasped. That letter was Noah's heart on paper. Brandon's voice rose. He's 5. He doesn't know what a hero is. That drawing is proof she's been poisoning him against me. Marcus stiffened. No, Brandon. That drawing proves something else entirely. Everyone stared. Marcus slowly reached into his jacket and pulled out a small flash drive. I didn't want to use this, he said quietly, but you forced my hand. I think. Brandon's eyes widened. What the hell is that? Marcus's voice dropped to a lethal calm. It's evidence, and when you see it, your entire world will collapse. A heavy silence fell over the street as Marcus held the flash drive between his fingers. Even the officers paused, their hands lowering slightly, sensing the shift in the air. Brandon's bravado faltered for the first time, his eyes flicking from the drive to Marcus like a trapped animal assessing danger. What the hell is that? Brandon repeated, but this time his voice cracked. Marcus stepped closer, not threatening, but resolute. Proof. Real proof. Not rumors, not headlines. Proof of who's been manipulating who. Lauren turned toward him sharply. Marcus, what evidence? He nodded once. Video recordings. Security footage. Conversations Brandon didn't realize were being captured. He looked straight at Brandon. You should have been more careful in your own office. Monaging. The color drained from Brandon's face. You had no right. Marcus cut him off. I didn't take anything illegally. Someone gave me access after you crossed a line with them. Someone who got tired of being threatened. He glanced toward Sienna. She looked away, hugging her arms tightly. He thought I'd keep covering for him forever. Lillian blinked in disbelief. Why? Why would you give Marcus anything? Sienna let out a shaky exhale. Because Brandon didn't just use me. He blamed me for every lie he told. And when the investigation started, he tried to pin the data leak on me. She looked at Lily with something that wasn't quite remorse, but close. I'm not a saint, but I'm not going to prison for him. Ethan swore under his breath. Brandon, tell me you didn't say anything incriminating on those cameras. Brandon's silence was the answer. The police officer stepped forward. Sir, if that drive contains evidence related to corporate misconduct, we need to secure it. Marcus shook his head. Not yet. This isn't about Skyline Tech. He looked at Lillian. This is about protecting a mother and child. He plugged the flash drive into his tablet. Ethan moved to stop him, but the officer blocked him. A video opened, the footage grainy but clear enough. Brandon in his office, leaning over Sienna, voice raised, sharp, venomous. If Lillian leaves, she gets nothing. I'll make her look unstable. I'll make her look dangerous. She won't win custody. Noah stays with me, so she has no reason to run. Lillian gasped. Noah whimpered. Even the officers exchanged stunned glances. Another clip played Brandon laughing with a coworker. Lily, she's harmless. She'll never leave. She's too scared to start over. And another Brandon threatening Sienna. You leak one thing about me, and I'll burn your career down. Sienna flinched at her own memory. Marcus paused the video. This shows pattern, control, manipulation, coercion. His voice hardened, and intent. Ethan pinched the bridge of his nose. Brandon, you're done. Brandon lunged for the tablet, but the officers restrained him easily. Those are taken out of context, he shouted. This is illegal. You can't use that in court. Lauren crossed her arms. Actually, we can. Lillian stared at Brandon, truly seeing him for the first time, without fear. But before the relief could settle, the officer's radio crackled loudly. Units be advised, Skyline Tech has issued an arrest request for Brandon Hale. Charges include embezzlement, fraud, and destruction of evidence. Brandon froze. The officer looked up. Sir, turn around, hands behind your back. But Brandon didn't run. He didn't fight. He smiled slow, chilling, and whispered, This isn't over, Lillian. The days following Brandon's arrest were a blur, heavy, surreal, strangely quiet. For the first time in years, Lillian woke up without the weight of someone watching her every move, judging every breath she took. The motel room was still cramped, the blankets still scratchy, the heater still clattering like an old train, but somehow everything felt lighter. Noah slept peacefully again. No nightmares, no sudden midnight cries for reassurance, just soft breathing and tiny hands curled under his cheek. Still, peace didn't solve everything. Their savings were nearly gone. Brandon had frozen their joint account before his arrest, and unfreezing it would take time. Job applications went unanswered. Lillian found herself counting change in her purse more often than she liked to admit. One morning, as she sipped a watered-down motel coffee, Marcus knocked gently on the door. Standing behind him was a woman carrying a small cardboard box. Lillian, Marcus said softly, this is Miss Alvarez. She's from the Safe Start Resource Program. I reached out to see what support we could get for you. Lillian stiffened. I didn't ask for charity. Miss Alvarez smiled kindly. It's not charity, it's transition support. Temporary. You don't owe us anything. Inside the box were essentials. Grocery vouchers, a prepaid phone card, bus passes, and pamphlets for housing options. Lillian's eyes burned, not with shame, but with a kind of exhausted gratitude she didn't know how to express. Thank you, she whispered. Marcus lingered after Miss Alvarez left. You're not alone, Lillian. You don't have to rebuild everything overnight. She nodded, but the truth was, she didn't know how to rebuild at all. Her life had always been a quiet shadow behind Brandon's spotlight. Without him, she barely recognized herself. Later that afternoon, Marcus drove them to a quiet community center where he offered her a temporary office nook to work on design sketches. He laid out crisp paper, colored pencils, and a laptop. I don't know if I can do this, she murmured. You can, he answered. You've been designing spaces emotionally your whole life. Now you get to design one for yourself. She stared at the blank page for a long moment. Then her hand moved tentative at first, then sure. Shapes formed, lines softened, colors blended. Hours passed without her noticing. For the first time in years, Lillian felt capable. That night, after she tucked Noah into bed, another knock came at the motel door. Not urgent, not threatening, just a polite tap. She opened it to find Sienna standing there, no glamour, no sharp armor, just a woman who looked worn down by her own decisions. We need to talk, Sienna said quietly. It's about Brandon. Lillian's breath caught. He's already in custody. What else is there? Sienna swallowed hard. He made a deal. And he's getting out sooner than you think. With Kamist. For a long moment, Lillian just stood there in the doorway, the cold hallway air drifting in behind Sienna, as if ushering in yet another storm. She felt her pulse throb in her wrists, her throat, her ribs. What do you mean? He's getting out? Sienna stepped inside slowly, glancing at the motel's peeling wallpaper with a guilt that looked almost genuine. Brandon made a deal with Skyline Tech. He's agreeing to turn over certain documents, ones only he had access to, in exchange for bail and reduced charges. Lillian's knees weakened, so he's free to come after me again. Sienna looked down, shoulders sagging. That's why I'm here. You need to know something before he gets to you. Marcus, who had insisted on staying nearby just in case, appeared in the doorway of the adjoining room, brow furrowed. What kind of something? Sienna clasped her hands, fingers shaking. Brandon wasn't just cheating. He wasn't just manipulating. He was planning something far worse. Something that involved both of you. Lillian felt the room tilt again. Both of us? Sienna nodded. He blamed Marcus for the internal investigation. He thought you were meeting him behind his back. He was convinced you were plotting to sabotage his career. Marcus's jaw tightened. That's absurd. Absurd or not, Sienna said, he believed it. And Brandon never just believes things, he acts. He told me. She hesitated, eyes glistening with a mix of regret and fear. He told me he wanted to paint Marcus as your affair partner. Said it would break your credibility, ruin his reputation, and win him custody of Noah. Lillian felt like she'd been punched. He would weaponize my child for revenge. Sienna nodded silently. Marcus stepped closer to Lillian, voice low but steady. He won't get that chance. But Sienna wasn't finished. There's more. The deal he made with Skyline Tech? It included a condition that could affect both of you. Lillian's breath caught. What condition? Sienna swallowed hard. He agreed to provide private messages. All of them. That includes the ones about you, the ones about Marcus, and the ones he forged. Marcus blinked. Forged? Sienna nodded, voice trembling. He created fake emails between you and Marcus. He planned to find them later as evidence of infidelity and instability. I know. Lillian's stomach churned. Why are you telling us this now? Tears finally slid down Sienna's cheeks. Because I've been many things: reckless, selfish, blind, but I'm not willing to ruin a child's life to save myself. Before Lillian could respond, a heavy knock rattled the motel door so loud Noah jolted awake with a cry. Marcus stiffened. Stay behind me. The knocking grew harsher. Urgent. Lauren's voice shouted from the hallway. Lillian, open up. It's me, hurry. Body 7. Lily rushed to the door and swung it open. Lauren stood there, breathless, holding papers in her hand. Her voice shook. Brandon's out, and he just filed a restraining order against you. Lillian stared at the papers in Lauren's trembling hands. The words blurred for a moment. Restraining order, instability, risk to the child. Her pulse hammered in her ears, drowning out everything except the growing terror inside her chest. He filed against me? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Lauren nodded grimly. He claimed you're a flight risk, that you're emotionally volatile and could endanger Noah if stressed. Lillian's mind spun. But he's the one who chased us. He's the one yelling in public. I know, Lauren said firmly. Everything he's doing is projection. He's flipping the narrative before you can build yours. Marcus clenched his fists. He's weaponizing the system. Sienna let out a humorless laugh. He's always been good at that. Thank you for watching. Lillian felt tears sting her eyes, not weak tears, but hot ones, full of fury. She didn't deserve this. Noah didn't deserve this. She had tried so hard to leave quietly, peacefully, without destroying anything. But Brandon didn't allow clean exits. He needed chaos. He needed control. So what does this mean? Lily forced out. It means, Lauren said, exhaling, he's trying to push you into a corner. If the court believes you are unstable or hiding, he gets temporary custody. Into Devon. Lily swayed slightly. Marcus reached out, steadying her with a gentle hand on her elbow. You're not doing this alone. Whatever he throws at you, we'll counter it. But Lauren wasn't finished. There's more. He's demanding an emergency hearing tomorrow. Sunrise. Lillian's stomach twisted. Tomorrow? That soon? He wants to strike while you're exhausted and scared, Lauren said. This is classic legal ambush. He assumes you're too overwhelmed to prepare. Thanks for watching. Don't over. Sienna took a step forward, guilt on her face. I'll testify. I'll admit everything I know. The fake emails, the threats, the way he talked about Noah like a bargaining chip. Whatever it takes. Lillian blinked, startled. You'd do that? I have to, Sienna said. I don't want to be the reason he wins. Marcus nodded. Then tomorrow, you won't just walk in as a frightened woman. You'll walk in with evidence, witnesses, and truth. But Lily's breath still shook. What if the judge believes him anyway? Lauren met her gaze steady, unwavering. Then we make them believe you. You have something Brandon never will. What? Credibility rooted in compassion, Lauren said. People like him don't understand it, but courts do. Before Lillian could respond, Noah tugged at her sleeve. "Mommy, are they going to take me away?" Her heart cracked. "No, sweetheart, I won't let that happen." A sudden banging echoed down the motel hallway, sharp and urgent. Everyone froze. Marcus whispered, "Who is that?" Another bang. Louder. Then a voice cold, official. "Lillian Harper? This is the NYPD. We have a court summons for you." Lily's breath caught, and then the officer added something that turned her blood to ice. And a request for immediate child transfer. The hallway outside the motel room felt colder than it should have, the fluorescent lights flickering harshly as two uniformed officers stood waiting. Lillian's heart hammered against her ribs, each beat sharp and panicked. Noah pressed his face into her hip, tiny fingers gripping her sweater with desperate strength. "I won't let you take my son," Lily said, her voice shaking but still fierce. One officer softened. "Ma'am, this isn't a removal. This is a summons. The court needs both of you present at the emergency custody hearing. Now, it's been scheduled for 6 a.m. Lillian exhaled shakily. Relief, small, fragile, washed over her. They weren't here to snatch Noah away in the middle of the night. But the fear lingered. Marcus stepped forward. "We'll accompany her." The officer nodded. "Only the parents are required. The others can wait outside." Sienna muttered under her breath. "He planned this. Sunrise hearings are designed to break you." Lauren placed a firm hand on Lily's shoulder. "We'll get through it. You look at me the whole time if you have to, okay?" Lillian nodded, though her legs trembled as they walked down the motel stairs. The cold morning air stung her cheeks. The city was barely awake, streetlights fading, traffic thin, the sky a dull gray that mirrored the uncertainty churning inside her. When they arrived at the courthouse, Brandon was already there. He stood near the entrance in a pristine suit, hair combed, face smooth, calm. Too calm. Ethan stood beside him, murmuring instructions. As if overnight, Brandon had shed the wild-eyed chaos and slipped back into the polished mask he always wore. He smiled when he saw Lillian. Not kindly, not warmly, triumphantly. Marcus instinctively moved between them. "Lily, don't look at him." But she already had. And the sick realization hit her like a blow. Brandon wasn't here to fight for Noah. He was here to destroy her. Inside the courtroom, everything felt too large, too bright, too unforgiving. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, looked over the file with a slow, methodical calm that made Lily's pulse race. "Miss Harper," the judge said, "you stand accused of removing the child without notice, exposing him to unstable environments, and obstructing paternal access." Lily's throat tightened. "Your Honor, that's not true." Brandon rose smoothly. "She abducted our son? She disappeared for days? My brother and I have been terrified she might harm herself, or Noah." Lillian's breath caught. "That's a lie." But Brandon continued, voice steady and dripping concern. "I've tried for years to support her emotional struggles." Her knees buckled. Emotional struggles? She had none except the ones he created. The judge raised a hand. "We will hear both sides." Lillian forced herself to lift her chin. "Your Honor, I left because I was unsafe." Brandon scoffed. "Unsafe? I provided everything for her. I'm the stable parent." The judge looked up sharply. "Do you have evidence of her instability?" Ethan handed over a folder. "Yes, Your Honor. Emails suggesting an inappropriate relationship. Erratic behavior reports." Lillian's heart dropped. "The forged emails?" The judge skimmed. Her expression darkened. Lauren stood abruptly. "Your Honor, those emails are falsified, and we can prove it." The judge raised a brow. "How?" Lauren nodded at Marcus. He stepped forward, holding the flash drive. "The same way we'll prove who the real danger is." He plugged it into the courtroom monitor. The first video clip loaded. Brandon's face blanched. The judge leaned forward. But before the audio played, Brandon stood, slamming his hand on the table. "I object that footage is..." The judge's gavel cracked sharply against the wooden bench. "Mr. Hale, sit down. Now." Of gourd. Brandon froze mid-outburst, his hand still pressed to the table, jaw clenched so tight a nerve twitched along his cheek. His eyes darted from the judge to Marcus, then to the screen like he was watching his own career slip through his fingers in real time. Lauren's voice cut clean through the tension. "Your Honor, may we proceed with the evidence?" The judge nodded. "Play it." Marcus pressed a key. The courtroom speakers crackled before Brandon's own voice filled the room, rough, angry, unfiltered. Lillian won't leave. She's too scared. And if she does, I'll make sure she gets nothing, not even the kid. Judges love a stable father with a six-figure income. She's weak. She'll lose. Lillian, sitting rigid beside her attorney, felt her stomach drop. Hearing his cruelty laid out so plainly, without manipulation, without charm, was a wound and a closure at the same time. Another clip played. Brandon again, this time speaking to Sienna. If she tries to run, I'll frame it as emotional instability. Fake a few emails. Nothing major. Women like her crack under pressure. Gasps rippled across the courtroom. The judge's face hardened. She leaned back slowly, studying Brandon with a chilling calm. Mr. Hale, do you deny this is your voice? Brandon's mouth opened, and nothing came out. Ethan looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. Sienna stood as well, surprising everyone. Your Honor, everything in those videos is real. I'll testify under oath. He planned all of it, weaponizing custody, manipulating evidence, threatening anyone who got in his way. The judge turned to Lillian. Miss Harper, why didn't you bring this forward sooner? Lillian swallowed, voice trembling. Because I was afraid. He made me believe no one would ever believe me over him. A flicker of sympathy crossed the judge's eyes. Brandon snapped. This doesn't prove anything. She's using that child psychologist, her little boyfriend, to make me look bad. Marcus stiffened, but Lauren spoke first. Dr. Ellington has no romantic involvement with my client, and unlike you, he actually cares about Noah's well-being. Brandon laughed bitterly. Oh, please. He's been obsessed with Lillian since day one. The judge raised an eyebrow. Mr. Hale, unless you have evidence to support that accusation, I suggest you remain silent. 1 SS. Brandon's fists tightened. Enough, the judge said, her voice sharp as glass. This court will not tolerate manipulation or fabricated claims. She took a long breath, reviewing the visible stack of evidence videos, timestamps, falsified emails, witness testimony. Then she looked at Lillian, then at Noah, who was sitting quietly with a court aide, clutching a small stuffed dinosaur. The judge exhaled. Based on what I've seen so far, I am strongly leaning toward granting Miss Harper temporary full custody. Brandon shot to his feet. You can't do that. However, the judge continued, eyes narrowing. Before I finalize anything, I want to hear from one more person. Lillian's breath caught. Dr. Marcus Ellington, the judge said, please take the stand. Marcus stood slowly, eyes steady, expression unreadable. He stepped forward, and Brandon suddenly whispered, loud enough for only Lily to hear. If he talks, I'll destroy him too. Astavisis. Marcus walked toward the witness stand with the steady composure of a man who had spent years listening, observing, and understanding pain. But this was different. This was him stepping directly into the line of fire, Brandon's fire. As he raised his right hand to be sworn in, Lillian felt her chest tighten, fearing that Brandon's whispered threat wasn't empty. The judge folded her hands. Dr. Ellington, please state your relationship to Miss Harper. Marcus nodded calmly. I am Noah Harper's child psychologist. Brandon barked a laugh. Oh, come on, he's obsessed with her. The judge slammed her gavel once. You will remain silent unless addressed. Marcus continued, voice steady. I've worked with Noah for several months. His teacher referred him after noticing anxiety, difficulty sleeping, and sudden behavioral changes. The courtroom leaned in. During sessions, Marcus said carefully, Noah described frequent tension at home. Yelling, fear of disappointing his father. He often said things like, Daddy is mad again, or Daddy says Mommy forgets things. Lillian shut her eyes. The truth hurt even when it was finally out. Marcus continued, no child should speak in rehearsed phrases about a parent. That is emotional conditioning. Ethan shot up. Objection. Speculation. The judge waved him off. Overruled. Continue. Marcus's jaw tightened. I never wanted to reveal confidential session details. But based on the court's urgent request, Noah consistently expressed fear of being alone with his father. He flinches when men raise their voices, and he showed significant relief when separated from Mr. Hale. Brandon slammed both palms down. This is ridiculous. He's manipulating a child to get to Lillian. Marcus didn't flinch. Mr. Hale has never attended one therapy session, despite repeated invitations. The judge glanced sharply toward Brandon. Marcus went on, voice firm yet somehow gentle. I am not here as a romantic interest, or even as a friend. I am here as a mental health professional who has seen what this child carries. He paused. And I can say confidently, returning Noah to an unstable, coercive environment would risk long-term emotional harm. The courtroom went silent. The judge inhaled deeply, absorbing the words. Ethan rose once more. Your Honor, Dr. Ellington is clearly biased. Then Marcus said something no one expected. I have no personal benefit in helping Miss Harper. In fact, he hesitated, eyes flicking to Lillian, softening. This puts me at professional risk, but protecting a child outweighs my reputation. Lillian's breath caught in her throat. She realized at that moment Marcus wasn't just defending Noah. He was protecting her. The judge leaned forward. Thank you, Dr. Ellington. You may step down. By tendons. As Marcus walked back, Brandon crooked a finger at him, whispering viciously, You think this wins? You think saving her wins? Watch what happens next. Before Marcus reached Lillian's side, the courtroom doors burst open. A bailiff rushed in, clutching fresh documents. Your Honor, urgent update from Skyline Tech. You'll want to see this immediately. The judge took the papers. Her eyes widened. And whatever she read made Brandon go pale, so pale it looked like the floor had dropped beneath him. The judge scanned the documents with a growing intensity, each line deepening the creases between her brows. Brandon shifted restlessly, tugging at his collar as though the room were tightening around him. Lillian watched the tension rise like a wave about to crash. She could feel something enormous was coming. Finally, the judge placed the papers down and looked directly at Brandon. Mr. Hale, is there anything you'd like to tell this court? Brandon blinked. About what? The judge's voice sharpened. About the updated findings from Skyline Tech's internal audit. Findings that directly contradict statements you made to this court. Ethan stepped forward quickly, tone slick. Your Honor, we haven't reviewed those documents yet. We request. You may review them after I finish, the judge said coldly. She held up one page. It says here that Mr. Hale attempted to delete company data intentionally and that IT recovered multiple files marked as destroy after transfer. Her eyes narrowed, including files labeled with his wife's name. A shocked murmur rippled through the courtroom. Lillian felt her breath hitch. He planned to use her as a scapegoat. The judge continued. Additionally, Skyline Tech has submitted formal testimony stating that Mr. Hale tried to pressure colleagues into backing fabricated claims about Miss Harper's mental instability. Her voice hardened. This is not just unethical, it borders on criminal coercion. Brandon's face collapsed. That's not true, someone set me up. But the judge raised a hand. Mr. Hale, your pattern of manipulation is documented in video, audio, and now corporate evidence. You have shown a deliberate attempt to weaponize both the legal system and your child against your wife. Ethan sank into his seat, realizing the case was slipping beyond saving. The judge turned toward Lillian, really turned toward her with a gentleness that brought tears to Lily's eyes. Miss Harper, based on the overwhelming evidence, I am granting you temporary, full custody, effective immediately. Lillian gasped. Noah, sitting beside the court aide, brightened instantly. Mommy? She nodded, tears falling. Yes, sweetheart, I'm right here. But the judge wasn't finished. As for Mr. Hale, she said, voice echoing with finality, you are barred from contacting Miss Harper or the child until further evaluation. Violations will result in immediate arrest. Brandon's mouth opened in horror. You can't. I already have, the judge said. Marcus exhaled slowly, shoulders easing for the first time in days. Sienna closed her eyes, relief washing over her conflicted face. But just as the gavel struck, the bailiff approached the judge again. Your Honor, there's more. Skyline Tech wants to move forward with criminal charges faster than expected. Brandon stiffened. The judge looked at him one last time. Mr. Hale, you will remain for processing. Panic finally cracked him open. No, you don't understand, Lillian. Please help me. Lily looked at him and felt nothing. She stood, lifting Noah into her arms. But before she could walk out in peace, Ethan Hale rushed to block her path, his face ashen. Lillian, he whispered urgently. There's something you don't know. She froze. Ethan swallowed hard. Brandon made one last move before his arrest. Something that affects you directly. Lillian didn't move. The courtroom hummed in distant echoes as Ethan Hale, usually composed and calculating, stood trembling before her. His eyes darted toward Brandon, now surrounded by officers, then back to Lillian with an urgency that chilled her. "What did he do?" she demanded quietly. Ethan swallowed hard. Before the arrest, Brandon created a false financial account. He transferred money into it using your name. It's small, but it's enough to make the IRS investigate you if it's not corrected immediately. Lillian's breath faltered. Even in ruin, Brandon's obsession with control reached beyond the grave of their marriage, like a final claw dragging her backward. Lauren stepped forward, voice sharp. "Give me the details. Now." Ethan handed her a folder. "I'm not protecting him anymore. He dragged us all down with him. You deserve the truth." Lillian steadied herself. "Can this hurt me?" Lauren flipped through the pages. Her brow softened. "No. Because he was sloppy. He left timestamps, IP addresses, and employee access logs that prove he did everything under your identity." She looked up with a reassuring smile. "We'll clear it without a scratch." Lillian exhaled a long, trembling breath she felt all the way to her bones. For the first time, she whispered, "I'm free from him." Marcus touched her shoulder gently. "You are, and he can't hurt you anymore." Brandon, hearing this, erupted. "Lillian, you can't walk away from me." But the officers tightened their grip. One leaned in. "Sir, that's enough." The judge signed the final papers with firm strokes. "This hearing is adjourned. Miss Harper, you and your son are free to go." Free. A word Lily hadn't tasted in years. She scooped Noah into her arms. He wrapped his tiny hands around her neck and whispered, "We get to go home now?" Tears warmed her eyes. "Yes, baby. A new home. A safe one." Outside the courthouse, the early morning sun finally rose, soft gold spilling across the concrete like a blessing. The chaos of the past weeks melted into something quieter, gentler. Sienna approached slowly. "Lillian, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. I let him turn me into someone I'm not." Her voice shook. "Thank you for not letting him win." If we come fresh, port." Lillian nodded. "Take care of yourself, Sienna." As Sienna walked away, Marcus stepped beside Lily. "I meant what I said. Protecting Noah was never just professional for me. I care, deeply, about both of you." Lillian felt her heart shift, soft, cautious, but real. "Marcus, I don't know what comes next." He smiled gently. "Then let's figure it out together. No promises, no pressure, just possibility." Weeks later, with Lauren's help, Lillian secured affordable housing. Marcus helped her set up a small home workspace where her design sketches blossomed into real projects. Clients praised her talent. Noah thrived, laughing more, sleeping peacefully, drawing pictures full of sunshine instead of fear. One evening, as they unpacked boxes in their new apartment, Noah handed Lily a fresh drawing. 3 figures holding hands, Mommy, Noah, and Marcus. "Mommy," he said shyly, "is he still our hero?" Lillian looked at Marcus across the room, warm light falling gently on him. "Yes," she whispered. "He is." And for the first time in a long time, she believed she deserved a happy ending. A real one. So that's how the story ends. And if you're still here with me right now, my friend, then something in this journey must have touched your heart in its own quiet way. Maybe it reminded you of your own strength. Maybe it reminded you of someone you love. Or maybe, just maybe, it whispered a truth you needed to hear. You deserve peace, even after the storm. You know, the ancient Stoics used to say, the obstacle is the way. And Lillian's story shows exactly that. The pain she walked through didn't break her, it shaped her. It taught her boundaries, self-respect, and the courage to choose freedom over fear. It reminded us that healing isn't loud or dramatic. Sometimes it begins with a single decision. I will no longer suffer in silence. Maybe tonight, take a quiet moment for yourself. Breathe. Let go of something heavy. And remember Marcus Aurelius's words. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Lillian found hers, and you can too. If this story moved you in any way, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach people who might need them most. And hey, thank you for being here, truly.